Okay, so let's have a walkthrough of an example horary chart to give you a basic outline of the process we go through. So this chart that I introduced earlier, should I buy a dog? And the first thing we always need is the background information to the question. And so this was asked by a woman whose children have grown up and they've just left home. She has recently been learning Horary Astrology, and the question came out of that. Um, yeah, so I mean that's the essence of the background. And so, we said this before, but just to reiterate, she is Jupiter in Pisces because Jupiter is the ruler of the ascendant, and the dog is the ruler of the sixth house because dogs, any small pet, is a sixth house theme, sixth house object. So that's the sun as the ruler of Leo. So what do we have? Oh, and we have the moon, of course. Remember the moon as co-significator in the first house. Now, what we see, first of all, if you think of the background, so this is a woman who's just been learning horary astrology. And if you know a bit about the nature of Jupiter and the sign of Pisces, they are well, Jupiter is connected to wisdom and learning, higher education. Yeah, Mercury is said to be more sort of bog standard learning and education, sort of rational, logical most school type education, whereas Jupiter's more concerned with higher knowledge, higher wisdom. And it's in the sign of Pisces, Pisces being the sign of mysticism and spirituality. So this placement here indicates that it shows that she's been studying this mystical art. So the chart's radical. Yeah, we can see from that the nature of her significator indicates her situation. Also interestingly, so there's an important component of this question is that the woman's children have recently moved out of their house, moved out of her house. And here we see the sun as indicative, an indicator of the dog, the significator of the dog, the rule of the sixth house, is found within the fifth house. And the fifth house, you may know, is the house that symbolizes children. So the fact that the other significator is in the house of children also to me indicates radicality. It is very fitting where the placements of Jupiter and the Sun to the nature of the question at hand, it's very specific. Yeah, children was mentioned, and there it is. And so we can say, yes, the chart is radical. And I haven't told you all the strictures against judgment. So you're just going to have to trust me on this when I say there are no strictures in this chart. So we can go ahead and the chart is able to be judged because there's no strictures and because it's radical. And so then the other key with a horary is there a perfection of the significators? Do the key planets come together by applying aspect? Now, depending on your level of astrological knowledge, this is where it can get tricky and complicated. Um, and maybe not if you have a good understanding, particularly of aspects. So, what we need to do is, in our minds, understand the movement of the planets. Where are they going next? Okay. And so we can see that the sun is at 2 degrees of Leo. Moon is 0 Aries. Jupiter is 22 Pisces. So, first thing is to look at are the querent and the quesitive coming together by major aspect? Now, one thing you may not know if you don't have this particular software, you can see that Jupiter, the number's in red here, whereas most of the others, the numbers are in black. When they're in red, it actually indicates that the planet is retrograde, moving backwards from the perspective of the Earth. So, what we know is Jupiter's motion currently going backwards at 22 Pisces is going to slowly go back through that sign. So 21 Pisces, 20 Pisces, 19 Pisces, etc. through time. And the sun at 2 degrees of Leo is slowly moving forwards in the sign of Leo. So each day goes by, the sun's going to go to 3 degrees Leo, 4, 5, 6 degrees Leo, etc. And I know, because I do a lot of astrology, that planets in the sign of Leo and planets in the sign of Pisces are 7 signs of the zodiac apart. Leo is the 5th sign, Pisces is the 12th sign. And I also know that because of that, there is no major aspects that will be formed between these two planets. So there can be no applying aspect here. You know, if you think aspects are, well, firstly, when two planets are exact by aspect, they must be in the same degree of their respective signs of the zodiac, okay? Because that's what makes them exact. So let's say the sun, when it moves forwards to 22 degrees of Leo, and let's say Jupiter's still at 22 degrees Pisces, maybe it's gone on to 21 Pisces. So when the sun's at 21 Leo, well, that's not a conjunction, it's not a sextile, it's not a trine, it's not a square, it's not an opposition, because these two signs being seven signs of the zodiac apart, we can't have a perfection between them. So that's a no there. And then we have to move on and remember the moon is also a co-significator. Yeah. So we any perfection can indicate a yes. And if we look at this, the moon is at 0 degrees of Aries. And the moon moves quicker than the sun, right? Moon will go all the way around in 30 days, the sun in a year. So we know that the moon, as the faster moving body, is going to be moving through its sign of the zodiac quicker than the sun. And the moon is at a lower degree than the sun, 0 and 2 degrees. So we know that the moon is going to catch up. You could say the moon is applying to the sun. And because they are both fire signs, right? So the moon is in Aries. You can see the red color of the sign for a fire sign. The sun is in Leo, also a fire sign. Now I know because I do a lot of astrology, that when you have two signs of the same element, they're always 4 signs of the zodiac apart, which is equivalent to a trine, 120 degrees. So, you know, any 2 fire signs will be 120 degrees apart. Any 2 air signs will, any 2 earth signs, any 2 water signs. So from this, I can tell that the moon is going to go to 1 degree Aries and then 2 degrees Aries within a few hours. When the moon hits 2 degrees of Aries, it is in exact trine to the sun. So there's a perfection by one of the major aspects that gives us a yes. That is what we need to be able to answer yes to a horary question. We have a radical chart, we have a perfection between the significators. That's enough. And, you know, one other interesting bit of background information, you know, I said previously how the moon often encapsulates the the essence of a question or the situation, and it's at 0 degrees of the 1st sign of the zodiac. And so you have basically that's the epitome of a big new beginning. Yeah. 0 degrees of any sign actually is often indicative of something new in a person's life. 0 degrees of the first sign of the zodiac, she's in this whole new phase of her life because her children have left home. And as I pointed out earlier, the dog, the sun, is in the house of children. So it's symbolically, it's kind of saying getting a dog is like a surrogate child for her in a way. It's replacing the loss of her children from her home. Um, and you can also say, the fifth house is also the house of fun and pleasure and enjoyment and good things. And so also indicative that that's what the sun is going to bring. That's what the dog is going to bring to this woman's life. And the sun in Leo, so the dog is kind of like going to have that Leo energy, which is playful and just fun and exuberant and full of energy. Um, so, you can get little bits of extra background information from a horary that aren't necessarily necessary to answer the question, but can help to fill in a bit of the color of the question to flesh it out a little bit. So, yeah, relatively speaking, this is quite a simple horary, and they get a lot more complex and complicated. But that gives you an idea of the essence of horary rules and the idea of perfection that we're looking for that's so crucial in horary.